Alright, so the Japanese stitch book, as I talked about before, you can work in spreads or you can work with them as individual pages. So you've got two options in terms of setting up your book. I'll start with how you would set it up in spreads, since that's the way we did the pamphlet book, and then show you how you would do it if you just had individual pages. So I'm going to use the same page size I had before, and I'm going to use a landscape orientation, but you obviously wouldn't have to do that. It just depends on how you want to lay out your book. But the page size, I'm going to use my standard pages, and the width is going to be wider. The width is going to be bigger than the height. And the first thing I'm going to make sure of is that I have facing pages. Facing pages means that you're working in spreads. So anytime you see facing pages, think spreads. I'm still going to have, since I'm working in spreads, I'm still going to have 28 pages, and I can adjust the margins a little later. I'll go ahead and put bleeds in just in case, and press OK. And I'll go ahead and save this before I forget. When I zoom out and look at the pages, you can see that it's all set up in spreads. So the main thing that I want to be sure of is that I have enough room in the gutter to account for the binding. What you'll probably want to do is go up to your master page and adjust the margins and maybe put in some rules so that, or some guides so that you know where the binding is going to go. So I'm just going to put in rules. So maybe where I put these guides is where the last stitches are going to go, and I need some kind of padding between those last stitches and the interior of my pages. So I've used guides to kind of show that information, but I'm also going to adjust my margins on both pages. So I'll go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and I'll make some adjustments here. So I want the inside margins to start pretty far in, and maybe the bottom can be less. And let me make some adjustments to the outside too. And then, since if I had full lines of text here, I think that might be a little bit long, so I'm going to put in columns too, just so I have more options of dividing up the text. And since I'm doing that in the master pages, that gets adjusted to all the other pages. And that's pretty much it for this. when it comes to printing these out, since these would be individual pages and not spreads, what I would do is when I go to, let's say, export this as a PDF, I would not select spreads. So when I save this, and it opens up, it'll show, it should show all of these as individual pages and not spreads. So obviously these are all the same because I haven't put anything in there, but these are all separate pages. And if I had something on both sides, when I go to print, I would just say duplex and make sure that the pages are printing where I need them to print. So it would be pretty standard. The back of page 1 would be page 2, back of page 3 would be page 4, and so on and so forth. Another option in terms of printing would be to set it up so that these pages are folded in half. And I didn't talk about this before, but let's say this is my spread. This could be folded in half this way. So I have page 1 and page 2, and then it gets bound on this side. So if that's the case, then I'm not duplex printing. I'm just folding the paper in half and binding it along the open edge. So this is the same exact thing. There's less cutting involved. And you could use the same setup. It's just that the page numbering would be different. So instead of having the verso page be the even number, your verso page would be the odd number. So if I were to set this up, and I can adjust that using my page options. If I do control click and go to numbering and section options, I can change this to start page numbering at 1 for this section. And if I give the section a prefix, then it shows that I'm starting a new section, so I'll just call this A. Oh, that didn't work.
You do the page numbering. Is there a way you can change numbers on certain pages? Like
Yeah, that's what you'd use this section for. It didn't shuffle them around. Okay, so to do this, I have to change a little bit of the settings so that the pages don't automatically shift to the standard reading. So what I'm going to do is control click somewhere where my pages are, the thumbnails are, go to this option that says allow document pages to shuffle. So I want to deselect that, and what that should let me do is move these pages around. So I could move page 1 so that it's on the verso instead of the recto, and actually what I may do is just delete that one. And so now my page 1 starts on the verso page instead of the recto.
Well, I'm thinking about you already have like the cover and back cover on this, but you want like the table of contents in page 1. How can you set it where it only page numbers inside but not like certain other ones?
Oh. Well, I think I know what you're asking.
And then I have different master pages that are set up for different pages throughout.
Okay. So I'm gonna show something. I don't know if this is what you're asking, but the different sections. So let's say these first 5 pages are all like the intro section, and maybe I want to number those with Roman numerals and not normal page numbers. So what I'm gonna do is right click or control click on the page that I want to start the section at, and I'm going to choose start page numbering at number 1, and then I'm going to change the style. So there's preset styles here, and I'm going to choose the lowercase Roman numerals. And then usually you'll need a section prefix so that you will visibly be able to see the different sections. So I'll name this first section A. And so you can see how that automatically changed the numbering for all of the subsequent sections. But I wanted that to end with the page number 5. So starting at page 6, I'm going to control click, go to numbering and section options, and do start page numbering at 1 and change the style back to regular numerals. And I might call this section B. And so now those numbers shift back to the normal numerals. Now when I go to my master page and put in page numbers, or folios, as you guys should be calling them, it'll automatically adjust to the type of marker that I designated for that section. So I'm going to go to Type, Insert Special Character, and go to Markers and Current Page Number. And I'll just put these let's see. What is that? I feel like there's some weird stuff going on today. This is kind of freaking me out. All right, so I've got my folio set up. So when I go to my different pages in section A, let me hide the frame edges. You can see that the numerals are the Roman numerals that I designated for that section. And then when I go to what was page 6, it's got the regular numerals. Now let's say you're working on a page and you've got an image that covers the whole page and you don't want to have a page number. Let me fill this in with color. Or maybe you've got something that's really close to the page number and the page number is actually distracting. What you do is hold down Shift and Command and then click on the text box, and it'll let you select the text box. Because as I explained before, if you do put something in the master page, it locks it. The only way to unlock it is to hold Shift and Command and then click on the box or the object, and then you can delete it or you can edit the text or whatever. So Aubrey, did that answer your question?
I think I can figure it out from what you just showed. Yes.
Okay. So this was a Japanese stitch book with spreads, and I used facing pages. If I want to just do single pages, then it's actually a lot simpler. I'll make a new document and I'll do the same dimensions as before. I'm still going to do 28 pages. but I'm going to turn off facing pages. And so when I see the thumbnails over here on the page preview, they're all single pages. And since we usually start with the recto page, I would do any adjustments to the margins and figuring out where the binding is so that it's on the left side of the page. So just like before, I draw in some guides, adjust the margins and columns. Before, since I was working with 2 pages, if I was adjusting the margins, instead of saying left and right, it would say inside and outside. Now since it's just 1 page, it says left and right. So I can make the left margin a little bit smaller. Adjust the bottom, adjust the right, just like I did before. And then with the page numbers, if you want to, they would just be the numbers that you see here. So if I insert the page numbers this time, there won't be any, all of the pages will be subsequent. So you'll have page 1 in front of page 2, in front of page 3, and so on and so forth. So if I insert a page marker here, then when I go and look at each page, it's just in normal numerical order. And when I go to print these, it's just going to print 1 page per sheet of paper. There's nothing printed on the back. So that one, pretty black and white. Are there any questions about either setup for the Japanese stitch books? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now for the accordion book, what I would recommend doing is, instead of working in pages, work in panels. So with the examples you all made, each panel had 4 pages on it. I would just go ahead and set up a whole panel as one InDesign page, and then use guides to figure out where the pages are going to get folded. You can line up individual pages next to one another, but when it comes to printing, it gets really tricky. So I think it's probably better to just have them all on one big page and then go back later and figure out where stuff needs to be folded. So to set that up, I'm going to go New Document, and for the width, it's going to be the width of 4 of these pages. So in this case, it'd be 11 inches. And then the height would still be the height of the normal pages, so 2.75 inches. And then since I have 4 pages per panel, and I need 28 pages, I could do 7 panels. I'm going to go ahead and make it 8, so that way it'll account for any end pages that might get covered up or glued to my front and back covers. So where it says pages, I'm going to put 8, and I do not want facing pages. So instead of having the smaller pages, I just get these long panels. And then what I could do is just put in guides where the pages get separated. And since I'm working in inches, I'm going to go ahead and change this to inches so that I know how I'm dividing these up. Oh, wait a minute. I think I did this wrong. I think the height is supposed to be 4.75. So if you find out that you made the dimensions wrong or something, you just have to go to File and Document Setup and go to whatever you need to fix. In my case, it's the height, and put in the proper dimensions, and it'll automatically adjust all of the pages.
So what's the height? What's the size?
This is just based on the books we've been making in class. So this is the width of 4 of these pages. So each little page was 2.75 inches wide, so that times 4 is 11. And then the height is the same height as all of the pages, which was 4.25. So I'm going to go to my master page and just start putting in the guides based on the normal page size. And what I'll do sometimes is I'll actually make a box to the size that it's supposed to be, and then I can just kind of use that to help me figure out where the guides need to go. Oops. So I'll draw a box, put the guide there, move the box over, put in a new guide, and so on and so forth. You can always select a guide, and then you can go and put in exact dimensions. So if I know this is supposed to be at 8.25 inches, I just select it with my arrow tool and then put in the proper number, and it'll shift it to where I want it to be. And so when I go to all my subsequent pages, I have everything where I need it, all the guides where I need them to be. Now, if you really, really prefer to work in pages, and there are advantages to working in pages like this because it'd be easier to set up folios and margins and all that kind of stuff, what you can do is do a new document, but actually move all of the pages around to where you need them to be. So I'm going to make a new document. I'm going to do the page size at the normal dimensions that I had before. I'm not going to do facing pages, and I'll still start off with 28 pages and we'll just see what happens. I do not want facing pages. So I've got all of these pages separate from one another, but to make my layout, I want to have 4 together printed. So what I'm going to do is, like I did with the Japanese stitch book, I'm going to control click or right click and deselect allow document pages to shuffle. What that should allow me to do is to take a page and move it up next to another page. So now 1 and 2 are next to each other. I can move 3 next to it and 4. So I've got those 4 pages together. I can do 5, 6, 7, 8 together.
You said deselect. Right?
Yeah, so if I control click just somewhere in this panel, before allow document pages to shuffle, there was a check mark next to it. When I clicked it, it deselected it. I think the wording for that is really confusing, but you'll find a lot of the software quirks are just trial and error. So you'll try something and it works, and then you'll try it the next time and it works, and you just kind of keep remembering it. But by doing that, it allows me to put 4 pages next to one another. So now if I go to my master pages and I want to put in folios, let me change my margins first. Say I put in folios. Insert page number. Now if I go to all of the pages for that particular panel, it puts the folio and names the pages appropriately. If I want to set this up so that it reads like a normal book and the folio on the verso page is on the left side and the folio for the recto page is on the right side, I would set up another master page. So I'm going to go up to the A master page and duplicate it so I get master B, and I'm just going to move him over to the right side. I'll change the alignment, and then what I'll do if I hold down Command, I can select multiple pages at once. So I'm going to try to just select what would be the even pages, and then control click and go to apply master to pages. And it'll show me the pages that this is going to be applied to, so it's all the even pages. And I'm going to change this to master B. And so now the odd pages are left aligned, the even pages are right aligned. And then in terms of printing, if you're going to go this route, I think the easiest thing to do would be to export it as a PDF. Let me just put like some objects in here so at least the pages look different. Okay, I'm going to save this first. And then I'm going to do export PDF for print. And I'm going to choose spread, so my hope is it'll put all 4 pages together, so that if I were to go and print this out, it would print all 4 on one sheet of paper. And then for marks and bleeds, I still want crop marks. So let's open this up and see if it worked. Ah, yes, it worked. So, what I get here are those 4 pages together, and then the crop marks tell me where to either cut or fold. So what you would want to do, you would first print this out, and then all of these center vertical crop marks, I would suggest going ahead and scoring at those places so that you know where to fold, and then use these outer 8 crop marks to trim.
How did you set up those?
How did, like, from the very beginning?
Little mark where you can
Oh, so the way you do that when you, let me close this. When you go to export and save as a PDF, this first page is where you tell it to save in spreads or not save in spreads. In this case, I want it in spreads. The only areas you really need to worry about are the General tab and the Marks and Bleeds tab. So crop marks gives you the little marks to know where to cut or fold. And then bleed settings will add the bleed or it will not put in the bleed. If you have an image that goes off the pages, you would want to have the bleed included. For you guys, I would just go ahead and say yes, include the bleed, because you guys are going to be trimming down the pages regardless. So that's all you would need. And then, oh, it's not in use. No, it's not. Spreads means that it puts all of the pages together as they show up on here. So spreads, but by InDesign standards, means having more two or more pages next to one another. What gave me the crop marks was when I went to Marks and Bleeds and chose crop marks. So are there any other questions about setting up these documents?
The page numbers.
What about it?
The folios, I don't know, like, could you repeat how to like, just to add them?
So the folios, let's say I've got this empty text box. Always, if you want automatic page numbering, go to your master page and make a text box where you want the folio to go, and go to type, insert special character, markers, and current page number. And then it automatically, in your master, puts in the letter for the master. But when you go to your actual pages, it'll put in the right page number.
So it's only in the master page that it puts A.
Yeah. So I changed these so that the A pages, the A master pages were the odd pages, and the B master pages were the even pages. So that's what it's doing. So if you look over here, it says A, B, and then these are pages 1 through 4. Same pattern here, but it's 5 through 8.
And for Roman numerals?
For Roman numerals, you'd have to change that with the section numbering. So what I'll do is I'll choose where I want the new section to start and control click on that page and go to numbering and section options, and then change, under page numbering, change the style to Roman numerals. And you can choose any of these. There's letters, there's capital Roman numerals, there's lowercase Roman numerals, and that automatically changes it.
Does it have to be in the master page or in the page?
To make it well, you can do it in these pages, but then you'll have to put the placement in the exact same spot. There's a lot more work involved. If you do it in the master page, it'll automatically put it where it needs to go. If I inserted a page number here, say it says current page number, see the type is wrong, so I have to change the typeface, and then if I wanted to put that on each page, I'd have to make a new text box for every single page. So if there's anything that you want to happen on every single page or almost every single page, just do it in the master pages because it'll make your life a million times better. Any other questions about the setup for any of the books?
With the Japanese stitch, you know how you said you could do the spreads, like with 2 pages on a spread, and then fold them?
Mm-hmm.
If you do it that way, and you add crop marks, will the crop marks be there so you know where to fold it?
Yeah, so let me go back to that one.
So you want to fold it in half, like the Japanese.
And I'll put some random shapes in here too. Okay, so if I save this as a PDF, go to export and PDF for print. I want all the pages and I want them as spreads. And then I'll go to marks and bleeds and crop marks. And that did not do it right because I didn't put it in spreads apparently. Oh no, that did do it right. Yeah, it did do it right. So yeah, you still get that center line because InDesign doesn't know what you're trying to do. It doesn't know that you really just want to fold that in half. So you would use those center crop marks to score down that vertical and then just fold, and then you would only cut on these 4 corners. Any other questions? So I know last time there was a question about how to import images for whatever reason from, let's say, Illustrator or Photoshop, or just putting in a JPEG or something like that. So since we have some time, I'll go ahead and show you all how to do that. But let me save this file first. All right. So let me see if I can find some random images. Okay, so I've got some photos from a workshop I went to last year. Any images that I want to use, I'm going to, just for the sake of my sanity, make an image folder that's in the same folder as my InDesign file. So I'm going to do a new folder and call it Photos. And I'll just add my images into that folder. Trying to find some interesting ones. So if I've got an image and it's already been adjusted and everything, theoretically I can just take this image and place it in InDesign. So to do that, I'll go to InDesign, go to the page where I want to put the image, go to File and Place, find my folder, in this case Photos, and select it and go to Open. When I do that, I get a little thumbnail image of the original photo, and you've got several options. You can just click and it puts the image in, or you can click, hold, and drag and make a frame for the image to go in. So it automatically resizes it to that frame. Now, the trick about images in InDesign, when you're looking at the images, there'll be two kinds of boxes. One is a box with a blue border around it, and another is a box with a brown border around it. When it's just selected and you want to move the whole image around, it'll have a blue box. But if I double click on it, the border changes to brown. And when it's brown, that means I can move the image around in the bounding box itself. So you can see I'm moving it around. If I want to change the way the image is cropped, I'd actually want to change the size of the blue box. Like, let's say I want the image to fit within my margins. I could do that by adjusting the size of the blue box. If I want to adjust the size of the image itself, I would double click on it and then go to the brown bounding box. If I hold down Shift, it scales the image proportionally, and then I can move it where I want it to go.
There's also another option that is like fit to
Yeah.
frame.
I'll talk about that too. So that's how you would manually adjust the images. Another option is to click on the image and do Control click or right click, and then you get the fitting options. There's all these different options. You can do fit content to the frame, so it'll automatically change what's inside the frame to fit the frame size. Then there's fit the frame to the content, and so on and so forth. You probably want to do the top two where it's fitting it proportionally, because if you don't do the proportional frame fitting, it's going to stretch or move your image in weird ways, and you want to keep the regular proportions intact in your images. Now the issue with just bringing in an image as a JPEG and it hasn't been edited at all is that this image is, first off, in probably not 300 dpi, and remember, we always want our images at least 300 dpi when we're going to print them. Any images you get from the internet or even photos you take, they're usually anywhere between 72 and 150 dpi. So you have to change the DPI, and then it's in RGB. And RGB is a screen color mode that looks fantastic on your computer, but when you go to print it out, it usually is very dull and is not appropriate for the 4-color process that we use. So we need to change it to 300 dpi, and we need to change it to CMYK instead of RGB. You can, even after you've replaced this, go and edit it in Photoshop. So if I click on the image, I can go over to links, and this is where it's going to show all of the images or anything that I've taken from another source and put into InDesign. And it'll tell you the name of the file and the page number that it's on. And to edit it, all I have to do is click this pencil tool and go to Edit Original. And depending on how you've set things up, it'll open it up in Photoshop or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's an option. If I go, yeah. So I'm going to click on it and go to Edit With, and then go to Photoshop, and it'll open the file in Photoshop. And the nice thing about doing it this way is any changes that I make, it'll automatically update it in InDesign.
Exactly. Does it work if you do, like, for example, in InDesign, you right click and you do high quality display?
No, it's not the same thing. I can talk about that in a second. Okay. So it shows me the original image, and I just want to go and check the image size. And as I thought, it's 72 dpi. So I want to change this to 300. But I also want it to adjust the size proportionally. So I'm going to deselect Resample Image. Under Resolution, put in 300. And then you can see that it adjusted the dimensions too. Because before it was humongous. Now it's still big, but it's a reasonable size. So it's 300, it's 15 inches wide, 11 inches high, so it's definitely big enough for me to work with. Then what I'll do is, first I'll decide if there's any other adjustments I want to make. If I want to adjust the coloring a little bit, change the levels. I might do that before converting it to CMYK. There is an adjustment called black and white, so if you've got a color image that you want to change to black and white, this will allow you to select certain colors to change to certain shades of gray, but you can only do that while you're in RGB mode. So let's say I want to convert this to a black and white image. It'll give me a preview of what it's going to look like. And since the reds were lower, some of the people look really dark. So I'm going to adjust the red so the people have a lighter shade of gray to them. And then I'll just kind of mess with these other ones and see how that changes the contrast in the image.
Is it in Edit that you did the 300 dpi?
Yeah, Edit and no, sorry, Image and image size. So there's certain adjustments like that need to be done in RGB. So that's one adjustment. There might be some others too. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, so like the black and white feature you have to do in RGB first, and then I'll go to Image Mode. And technically, since this is grayscale, I could save it in grayscale, but just for the sake of consistency, I'll save it in our CMYK. So image mode, CMYK, and it'll say, do you really want to do this? Yes, I want to do it. And that's it. So I'll save this. The quality you usually want, I usually do like 10 to 12 in terms of the quality, but as you adjust the quality, it'll give you a file size. So I have this at 10 right now, and so the image, the JPEG would be 4.6 megabytes. If you want to go ahead and get the file size smaller, you still need it at 300 dpi, but since my book is less than 5 inches high, I could change these dimensions. So what I would do is go back to image size, select resample image, and this will let me change the dimensions of the image without changing the DPI. So I'm going to put a height of 5 inches, and that adjusts the width proportionally. And now when I save it, and I change that to 10, it cut the file size in half. So now it's 2 megabytes instead of 4.6. Okay, so I save this. Now when I go back to InDesign, fingers crossed, it'll automatically update my image. Yeah. So it automatically changed the size, it changed the color, and it's all there where I need it to be. Image quality settings in InDesign. If you go to View and go to Display Performance, you'll see these 3 options. You've got Fast Display, Typical Display, and High Quality Display. Fast Display will take all of your images and just gray them out. And the reason for doing this is seeing the images on the screen, it takes more processing power from your computer. So sometimes it can slow down the processing. So if you've got a ton of images, you're just working with the text and you don't need to see the images, then you could do the fast display. Usually you can do typical display and it'll give you a pretty good preview of the image. And it'll slow down the processing, but unless you've got really huge images, it shouldn't slow down the application too much. If you do View, Display Performance, and High Quality Display, it'll show you the image in the full DPI, and everything's very crisp and clear. So let me go back to a typical display, and you can see that it makes the image more pixelated. That doesn't mean it's going to print pixelated like this. If you want to make sure that your image is going to print the way you want it to, go to High Quality Display and see how the image looks. But usually as you're working in your document, you would not want to have High Quality Display because it's going to really slow down the application. So that hopefully answers that question. So you can bring in images from any application. You can actually put in just regular Photoshop files. You can put in Illustrator files. You just do it the same way. You go to File and Place, find your image. It gives you a little thumbnail. You click and you put it where you want it to go. And then any file you import, it shows up in this links panel. When you just place the image in here, InDesign is always looking for the file in the original place you put it. So let's say I take this image and I put it somewhere else. When I go back to InDesign and the links page, it's going to ask, where the hell is that image? So I either have to put the file back where it was before, or I have to tell the InDesign, okay, I moved it somewhere else, let me find it for you. So to do that, click on the link and then go to this little icon down here. It says relink. And it will take you to the folder, and then you just find the image that you're looking for and click open, and then InDesign will say, okay, it's all good, I got it now. If you want to, you can embed these files, so that way they're already in the document and you don't have to worry about linking them. The problem with that is it makes the InDesign file larger, but it is an option. So to do that, click on the image, the link to the image, go to the drop-down menu over here, and then go to Embed Link. And you get this little icon next to it that lets you know it's embedded. So now, even if I move that original file somewhere else, it doesn't matter because that file is in the InDesign file. It's not going anywhere. So this is really important, especially if you're going back and forth between computers. A way to avoid all of this, images are saved in the same place. But you can also package your files, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned before, but I'll go over it again. If you go to File and go down to Package, this summary page is going to show you an overview of all the stuff that's going on with your file. So it'll show me the fonts that I've used, the images and links that are in the document. There's only one image, and it'll show me the colors that are used. This is a really good way to check and make sure whether or not any of your images are in RGB, because it'll say, it'll tell you how many images have RGB, and then it'll also list the colors used. So if you see any of the images that have RGB, then you know you need to go back and change them. You can also go to links and images, and it'll tell you the image name, what type of file it is, and whether or not it's in CMYK or RGB. So that's always a good thing to check. You can also see exactly what fonts you're using, the colors you're using, and so on. So you'll save a folder. The folder will be named whatever your file is named, but it'll just have folder after it. And you want it to link all of your graphics, link any fonts you use, and click Package. And when I go back to my original folder, I'll have this special folder. It's got my InDesign file in it. It's got the links, the images that I used, and then it's got any fonts that I used. So if you're going back and forth between computers, you might want to package your files, and then you can make this into a zip file. So right-click and go to Compress. And then you can just take this, put it on your external hard drive, and put it on another computer. Okay? Are there any other questions about that?